If you live in an area where you're subject to regulations from something like a homeowners association or an HOA for short, or even local regulations that might restrict things like water use, then if you want a garden, you're going to need to find some ways around that. First of all, the best thing to do is to actually look up those regulations and bylaws, see what you're dealing with. Also, when you're doing that, look up what the penalties are for it. So if your penalty is just going to be a written warning and some bad attitude from some neighbors, then you might decide whether or not you feel that it's worth it to you to push the boundaries. But if it's a monetary fine or fee, that could be a different situation, and some of them get even worse than that. But it is something that you want to know before you go deciding to bend or even break the rules. Other than that, there's some things you can do. First of all, look to container gardening. You can see here I've got lavender in with some ever-bearing strawberries that are just getting going. These will go over on my patio, and it's really nothing for anybody to complain about or necessarily to even know about. Also, lavender is something that's kind of a dual-purpose, double-duty plant. It's an herb and it's an ornamental, so things like that can often skate by. You know, there are some really beautiful looking and nicely fragrant plants like basil. I've got in the pictures a picture of a piccolino basil that grows in like a ball shape. It's very pretty. Most people wouldn't even realize it's a basil plant at all. Now, you know, you can also look at other double duty things like, for instance, I've got this elderberry here. It's a beautiful bush. I can shape it by pruning it in the off season. And it stays nicely rounded. If you do that, these can become accent plants. Look to edible landscaping. Look to the things like the edible kales and the different colors of cabbage and kales and greens. Also, see when you're looking up those restrictions, is there a list of approved plants or even a list of plants that are not allowed? See what you can do to work within that. And then finally, if you feel that something's wrong with your HOA restrictions, don't be afraid to challenge those. Even look up your state or local government laws, because some of these HOAs write restrictions that they really are not legally entitled to, and many of the states, because of the increase of these restrictions, have begun to put some limits on what can be done. In other words, like a lot of these HOAs may be saying you can't grow a food garden, but that's not legal given the state or country national government. So definitely look into that. And then also, you know, start conversations with your neighbors. Maybe some of these regulations are outdated and exist from former associations, and maybe your association now is not even that interested in doing it. And if you get together with some other neighbors who also like gardening, maybe together you can implement some change. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you have a great day gardening.